unprecedented details about Harry's accusation that his own family members used the tabloid press against him and his wife.
Prince Harry and Meghan Markle were left stunned and sidelined as Princess Anne formally read the final will and testament of Queen Elizabeth II. There were no gestures of affection, no olive branches, no inclusion. Started with them briefing daily against my wife with lies to the point of where my wife and I had to run away from not a single mention of the exiled Duke and Duchess of Sussex. The couple who spent the last 4 years publicly accusing the royal family of racism, negligence, and cruelty were met with a deafening silence in the Queen's final wishes, a silence that speaks volumes. This catastrophic erasure comes just days after Harry's humiliating legal defeat in the UK, where a High Court judge firmly denied his bid to force British taxpayers to fund his personal security. As if that weren't enough, Harry's bizarre graveling TV tour pleading for reconciliation on both CBS and BBC, neither of us believe that comment or that experience or that opinion was based on, was met with icy indifference. The monarchy has made its judgment, and it's final. Harry and Meghan are not part of the future. They say the dead speak no more, but on a cold, silent morning behind palace walls, Queen Elizabeth II spoke louder than ever from beyond the grave. The setting was discreet, no fanfare, no cameras. He is like selling out his family for money essentially when he's talked so often about the agony of being. Just the somber weight of legacy hanging in the air. Senior members of the royal family gathered for the private reading of Her Majesty's final will, and at the heart of this moment stood Princess Anne, the Queen's only daughter and one of the most respected, least theatrical members of the firm. With the Queen's most trusted advisors present, Princess Anne, unwavering and precise, read the carefully prepared document that Her Majesty had spent years refining. This wasn't just legal housekeeping, it was an act of monarchy. And what followed was nothing short of a royal reckoning. Can you see a day when you would return as a full-time member of the royal family? No, I can't see that. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle were not mentioned, not once. No heirlooms, no estates, no symbolic gestures of remembrance or forgiveness. Not even a trinket to pass down to their children. Just silence, a silence that hit harder than any public rebuke. This was not a clerical oversight or a forgotten paragraph. It was a conscious, decisive, and calculated exclusion. Her Majesty, known for her subtle strength and unshakable commitment to duty, had made her feelings clear in the most dignified way possible. We have 20 weeks of paid leave because if it's not being provided by the government at this point, and hopefully that'll change, you want to be a company that provides that for your employees. After years of accusations, interviews, books, lawsuits, and Netflix specials, after Harry and Meghan systematically dismantled their ties to the monarchy, the Queen's response was measured and final. She simply wrote them out of her history. Which brings us to the second, even more chilling part of this story. Because not only were Harry and Meghan erased from the Queen's will, their children were too. Archie Harrison Mountbatten Windsor and Lilibet Diana, named in part after the Queen herself, were given no inheritance, no mention, no acknowledgement. For a monarchy that thinks in terms of dynasties and bloodlines, well, first I would urge you not to read tabloids, because I don't think that's healthy for anyone. Hopefully one day that they come with a warning label like cigarettes do, like this is toxic for your mental health. This was a seismic message. Let's be clear, William and Catherine's children are woven tightly into the royal fabric. Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis are prepared, protected, and placed on the path of duty. But Archie and Lilibet? Her Majesty made no such gestures. In the end, Queen Elizabeth didn't pass down her legacy to a family that moved 5,000 miles away to trade in royal tradition for red carpets and reality-style confessionals. She left it to those who stayed, who served, who remained loyal. Now before the death of the Queen, Princess Anne sat down with Chris Shipp, the ITV royal editor and Sunrise contributor, always led by example and understood what made society tick. Harry and Meghan spent years insisting they had been pushed out, mistreated, erased. But now the monarchy has made its statement, not with words, but with ink on paper. The Queen saw through the chaos. And her silence, her will, it was the final word. Just when you thought the humiliation couldn't get any worse, Prince Harry walked into a courtroom in London and walked out with a judicial slap to the face. Let's talk facts. Harry sued the British government to reinstate his royal security detail, not because he's a working royal, not because he's actively serving the crown. No, he demanded that UK taxpayers foot the bill for his personal security, despite the fact that he voluntarily abandoned his royal duties, titles, and responsibilities in 2020. A major ambition, and it's a huge advantage if you have somebody who can be recognized. People don't change that much. I think they recognize those people whose commitment has. In the High Court's damning judgment, the judge made it unequivocally clear, Prince Harry has no automatic right to state-funded protection. The court concluded that once Harry cut ties with the institution, turning his back on royal obligations and protocol, he forfeited the privileges that came with it. This wasn't just a technical loss, this was a legal annihilation. Harry argued that he feels unsafe bringing his family to the UK, but the court wasn't swayed by sentimentality. Because emotion doesn't trump law, and the law is clear. You don't get royal treatment when you renounce the royal role, but rather than accept defeat with grace, Harry pivoted to something even more embarrassing, a desperate public appeal for reconciliation. It started with a CBS interview, smooth lighting, soft questions, carefully rehearsed lines. Then came the BBC spot, timed with precision. Harry waxed poetic about family unity, forgiveness. It was all very polished, very public, very performative. And yet, it fell completely flat. The royal family's response? Nothing. Not a word. No official comment from King Charles. Understand what society was thinking. Yes, I think that's a remarkable, skill to know what the true values are. You were growing up, and at some point you must have realized you were part of this, family and everyone was looking at you. You've got to. No gesture from Prince William, not even a whisper from Kensington Palace. Because everyone sees what this really is, a last-stitch PR campaign wrapped in faux vulnerability. Harry wants reconciliation, but on his terms. After years of attacking the monarchy, selling out private family trauma for Hollywood contracts, and publishing Spare, a book that branded his own brother as violent and cold, he now asks for trust. Trust is not granted through morning show sympathy. It is earned through loyalty, through sacrifice, through silence. And silence, ironically, is what the palace has weaponized against him. While Harry pleads on American airwaves, the Windsors are doing what they've always done best, keeping calm, carrying on, and letting the consequences speak for themselves. The Queen's will made the boundaries clear. The UK court made the laws clear. And the royal family's silence, that made their position brutally, unmistakably clear. Harry isn't just out of the institution, the family, or is she much? Does she like you to find your own way? And I think there was an element of finding your own way. I mean, if you asked, you would, you could certainly get help. There's nothing wrong in that. But the reason I was, in the newspapers or you hear on the web, that, of course, there will have been, people would have been prepared for this. He's out of chances. Actions have consequences. And for Meghan Markle, the bill has finally come due. For years, Meghan spun a narrative that positioned her as the innocent outsider, the misunderstood American, the victim of royal rigidity and latent racism. The Oprah interview painted the monarchy as a cold, unfeeling institution. The Netflix docuseries doubled down, accusations of cruelty, of institutional neglect, of deliberate exclusion. It was a PR war, and Meghan led the charge. But what she failed to grasp was this: while Hollywood may reward drama, the monarchy does not. And in her final act, Meghan was not acknowledged. Not as Harry's wife, not as the mother of her great-grandchildren, not as part of the family. The woman who claimed to be silenced was, in the Queen's last legal breath, effectively erased. There is no, manual, in that respect. It was about you learning on the, not making assumptions and certainly not throwing, was an example for you to follow. But she was always there, should you need some advice and guidance and help. If you had a question, that was, This was not a moment of oversight. It was legacy preservation. Because while Meghan and Harry sought to monetize their royal status, the Queen sought to protect the institution. She knew the damage their interviews and accusations had done. She saw how every headline, every media appearance, every carefully orchestrated bombshell undermined the very thing she had spent 70 years upholding, the dignity of the crown. And when the time came to deliver that final verdict, Her Majesty didn't speak in tabloids. She didn't do interviews. She didn't need a documentary. She simply signed her will and removed them entirely. It was the most royal move possible, clean, composed, irreversible. But who better to carry out that final blow than Princess Anne? Princess Anne, the late Queen's only daughter, has never indulged in the theatrics or self-promotion. Is the sticking point, it is the only thing that's left. Of course, some members of my family will never forgive me for writing a book. I don't know how much longer my father has. You know, he won't speak to me because of this security stuff that Meghan built her brand on. She is known as the hardest working royal, over 500 engagements a year and barely a headline to her name. She doesn't give tearful interviews. She doesn't write memoirs. She serves. So when Anne stepped forward to read the Queen's will to the family, it wasn't just administrative duty. It was a moment of symbolic justice. And who, famously, once shrugged off a kidnapping attempt with the words "not bloody likely," delivered the final royal judgment with the same unshakable composure. No drama, no sentimentality, just the cold facts. Harry and Meghan had chosen their path. And now the monarchy had chosen theirs. It's fitting, isn't it, that Anne, who never courted fame, who never cashed in, who never cried foul, the things that they're going to miss is, well, everything. You know, I love my country. I always have done, despite what some people in that country have done. So a decision that was made, most likely, in fact I know, to keep us under the roof, was the one to formalize the exclusion of two people who turned monarchy into marketing. Meghan thought she could force inclusion through outrage. But royalty isn't performance, it's duty. It's sacrifice. And it's earned. And knew that. The Queen knew that. And now the will reflects that. This wasn't about revenge. It was about standards, about drawing a line between those who endure quietly and those who sell loudly. In the end, Meghan and Harry wanted to rebrand the monarchy in their own image. But the monarchy, true to form, chose legacy over noise, dignity over drama, lineage over likes. And Princess Anne, steady as ever, brought the curtain down. There's a reason the British monarchy has survived wars, divorces, abdications, scandals, and now Harry and Meghan. It knows when to shut the door. Bulletproof against press tantrums and Netflix exposés, the institution has responded to Prince Harry's courtroom defeat and Meghan's ever-expanding victim narrative with one brutal, calculated weapon: total institutional freeze-out. No roles. No titles. No royal work. No honors. Not even security. Following the UK High Court's ruling, Harry was officially treated as what he is, a private citizen living abroad. The court determined that he is not entitled to publicly funded police protection when in the UK. And he cannot pay for it himself as a private arrangement either. That would compromise the integrity of state law enforcement. Let that sink in. The son of King Charles, 1 second in line to the throne, cannot even hire the police to protect him. Why? Because he is now, by his own choices, a non-working royal with no constitutional responsibilities. You don't get royal protection without royal service. And yet Harry continues to behave as if he deserves special treatment, as if the UK owes him lifelong privileges, despite the fact that he left the country, left the family, left the duties, but still wants the benefits. He wants security without service. He wants status without sacrifice. And most embarrassingly, after losing his legal case, he turned to the media again, this time to plead for a royal reconciliation, as though an interview on CBS or a feature on the BBC could somehow undo the damage he's done. But the royal family didn't bite, not King Charles, not Camilla, not William, not even the more sympathetic cousins, because Harry's cries for unity ring hollow when they come only after rejection. And Meghan? She's now watching the walls close in on every front. Her brand is flailing. Her podcast deal with Spotify was terminated. Netflix canceled her animated series Pearl before it even launched. Her recent attempts to rebrand with a lifestyle line have been mocked as Gwyneth Light. And let's not even mention the American Riviera Orchard brand reveal that came off like a parody of authenticity. With the Queen's will excluding her name completely, Meghan is no longer even a footnote in royal continuity. She's a chapter the Crown has closed tightly. What does that mean in real terms? No honorary titles. No roles for Archie or Lilibet. No access to royal estates or family trusts. No invitations to official royal events. And critically, no security cover under the royal household. The same woman who once told Oprah that she feared for her son's safety now finds herself without any institutional protection or relevance, because the Crown has made it clear, you don't slander the institution and expect it to protect you afterward. This isn't cruelty. It's consequence. The monarchy doesn't have time for emotional blackmail. It doesn't run on Instagram likes or red carpet optics. It runs on duty, discipline, and history. Harry and Meghan walked away from that, and now they are discovering that once you're out, you're out. The Queen's will, the court ruling, the palace silence, these are not isolated events. They are a pattern, a verdict, a final judgment from an institution that has survived everything and now treats the Sussexes as what they chose to become, outsiders. There's being cut off, and then there's being cut out. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle didn't just lose favor. They lost their seat at the table, permanently. And the final nails in that coffin? The exclusion from the Queen's personal legacy and the erasure from royal ceremonial life. Let's start with the ceremonial roles. In a monarchy built on hierarchy, symbolism matters. Public appearances, state honors, jubilee medals, coronation invitations, these are not pageantry for the sake of it. They are powerful markers of inclusion, duty, and rank. And yet, since their departure in 2020, Harry and Meghan have been slowly but methodically removed from all major ceremonial participation. They were relegated to the second row at Queen Elizabeth II's funeral. They were barred from appearing on the Buckingham Palace balcony during the Platinum Jubilee. Harry was stripped of his honorary military titles, roles he once cherished, and not allowed to wear his uniform at key commemorations, unlike his disgraced uncle Andrew, who, awkwardly enough, was permitted on select occasions. This isn't random. This is removal. This is the institution asserting who belongs and who no longer does. But the deepest wound came with the late Queen's will. It confirmed what royal protocol had hinted at for months: Harry and Meghan are no longer considered part of the working royal family. Even in death, no mention, no allocation of personal mementos, no legacy trust for Archie and Lilibet. Nothing. For a woman who kept even the most difficult family members within her ceremonial grasp, think Andrew, this was her quietest, most powerful rebuke yet. Queen Elizabeth was not vindictive. She was strategic. And her will, devoid of emotion, was a document of institutional clarity: you left, so you are left out. And now, with the monarchy's door shut, the lawsuits failed, and the media interest waning, Harry and Meghan are staring down the reality of irrelevance. Their platform was built on proximity to royalty. Their brand relied on being the rebels of the palace. But with no royal ties left to exploit, no new material to mine, and no public trust to rebuild, the Sussex engine is sputtering. Even the American press has cooled. Once the darlings of liberal media, they are now seen as opportunists overstaying their victim narrative. Harry's book Spare brought momentary sensation, yes, but at what cost? He alienated his family further, embarrassed himself with petty grievances, and exposed his emotional immaturity to the world. The tragic irony? The more they try to claw their way back into the royal conversation, the more irrelevant they become. Because Britain has moved on. The monarchy has recalibrated under King Charles. Prince William and Princess Catherine are consolidating their roles. Even Princess Anne and the Wessexes are stepping up. Meanwhile, Harry and Meghan are where, exactly? Not in Frogmore Cottage. Not on the royal roster. Not in the Queen's will. Not in the future of the crown. This is not exile. This is consequence. They were given privilege. They weaponized it. They were offered duty. They monetized it. And now, they are nothing more than cautionary tales in the House of Windsor's long, unyielding history. No titles. No trust. No second chances. Just silence, and the sound of a monarchy moving forward without them. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle gambled their royal legacy on Hollywood deals, grievance-fueled fame, and media warfare. Now, stripped of legal wins, family affection, and royal privilege, they are discovering the cost of burning every bridge. The Queen's will wasn't merely a legal document. It was the final formal disavowal of their place in royalty.